What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 45 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. I'm not even going to waste your time with a long intro. The Pacers just blew out the Cavs in game 4 to go up 3-1, up 41 at halftime. Went on the hottest of heaters. That was like the team version of a Klay Thompson heater. I've never seen anything like that. Sean, I'm just going to give it to you. What were your big takeaways from game 4 specifically, and then the outlook on the entire series?
Yeah. I think one, to start things off, that was an egregiously bad Cavs game.
Yep.
And I'm glad we're talking about Thunder Nuggets too, because I think there's some takeaways from both series that are just the wrong takeaways to be had. And I'm nervous, and this is coming from the resident Cavs hater apparently. I'm a little nervous that the takeaway from this series, if Indiana finishes the deal in Game 5, or if Indiana wins the series regardless, you're kind of already seeing some of it, is, oh man, this group can't get the job done. Oh, this is just 2015 Hawks. You've already seen that. Where in reality, they were really, really dominant in the regular season. Yeah, they had an awful Game 4, but they lost the first 2 games because they were just hurt, honestly.
Yeah.
And you go against a really, really, really good team in the second round with three of your 5 or 6, 3 of your 5 best players hurt, then you just put it at a disadvantage. And the Pacers, and I think honestly, that's not, I don't want to take credit away from Indiana because Indiana's awesome. You had them ranked as your 5th best contender. I had them 8th, same kind of tier. But you, facing that caliber of team with 3 of your 5 best players hurt, and your 2nd or 3rd best player, depending on who you're talking to, still being bothered even though he came back from said injury, it just makes things tough. And I don't want the takeaway to be oh man, this team can't get it done, or to the Hawks, or et cetera, because I think they probably would have won this series in 6 or 7 games. I had it going 6 initially if they were fully healthy, so I'll stick with that. So I just want to start with that. Now, going on to the actual game, it kind of goes back to what I've said all year about the Pacers, and we're going back to the offseason, and part of me feels a little bit validated right now, because the thing I had said all year about the Pacers and why going into the year I had them as a fringe title contender, which was kind of surprising, I guess, if you want to call it that, was because the Pacers just flat out they can't overwhelm you. It's specifically offensively, how fast they play, the amount of creators they have, how they're all unselfish, how they all can move the ball well, et cetera, et cetera. But then they've just been a noticeably better defensive team than last year. And I think it starts with their pressure. They play fast on both ends for 48 minutes. Well, last year it kind of felt like, okay, we can speed you up defensively. We had another year in the playoffs. I thought they were a fine playoff defense last year, but they've been a legitimately good playoff defense this year, on top of the fact that they're going to play fast. And we talked about it after Game 2, how it felt like the Cavs just legit got tired. It got winded. And said after Game 2, if it's an 8-point game and you're up 8 on the Pacers going to the 4th quarter, good luck. That's not a big enough lead because of how fast they play and how they can really just tire you out and overwhelm you on both ends. So shout out Neesmith, shout out Andrew Nembhard to have been taxed with that responsibility the most. And then Miles Turner, I thought, especially in Game 4, had a really good defensive performance, and Nembhard is a really good defensive playmaker. There's a specific play in the first quarter. I want to say it's a Garland and J.A. It might be a Donovan Mitchell. I think it was Donovan Mitchell, actually. And Jared Allen just high pick and roll. And Turner's in a high drop. He's retreating back. He's not trying to give up the lob. He does a good job of showing at the ball. And Donovan Mitchell tries to just throw a simple pocket pass, I think it was. And Nembhard somehow just deflects it and leads to a turnover, and the Pacers were able to run out early. Just having the defensive playmakers, the speed that they play with. I forget who it was that tweeted it out, but, I mean, they're probably right. This has got to be the most conditioned team in the league. I don't know what conditioning drills they do during training camp or throughout the season, but they just don't gas out, and they just flat out overwhelm you. So kudos to the Pacers, and I don't want the takeaways about the Cavs to be like taken too far, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to your point on the ball pressure, I think that's kind of been a theme for Indiana all year, but specifically in game 4, it was like you've got 3 guys, Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Nesmith, and TJ McConnell, who every minute they're on the court, they are playing 94 feet. And that just drains you as an offense because it makes it, first of all, it forces a ton of turnovers. Like the Cavs had a bunch of backcourt turnovers in that game, and a backcourt turnover is instant offense. So you're just handing the Pacers points in those situations. But even if you don't turn it over, your offense has to play a lot faster and out of sorts than it normally would. Players are losing energy quicker. And honestly, like another one of my big takeaways from this game and game 3 is that Garland doesn't even look like a fraction of himself. Like every shot Darius Garland takes is like some awkward sidestep 3. He's not getting into the paint. He's not really creating much of anything. And he just hasn't been the point guard that Mitchell needs. And then it's like, okay, now we have Ty Jerome to step into that role. And Ty Jerome's been even more rattled. He's just been egregiously bad. I think like 2-point games and stuff. Like he's just been egregiously bad. And it stems from the athletic limitations. He's got a negative wingspan. He's not very big. He's not very strong. He's not explosive. Struggling to deal with the pace and can't really get to his spots and set up the pick and roll in the way he wants to. And then also all of that just takes a toll on his shot making. Like we talked about how he's made 57% of his floaters in the regular season, and now he's just leaving every floater short, which probably has a lot to do with what you're saying. They're just drained of energy, and then he's missing open threes. Sam Merrill's missing open threes. Donovan Mitchell is really the only one, and to some extent Jared Allen, that has produced like they did in the regular season, or maybe even a little bit better. Even Mobley, I'd say, like looks a step slower, and Siakam's played some really good defense on Mobley in isolation. So it's like, yeah, I don't want the takeaway to be that the Cavs can't get it done. Like we're having a completely different discussion if the Cavs weren't just missing half their team in some of those games, and then also if these guys were playing like their normal selves. Like take the current Cavs situation, add an All-NBA guard, because that's the level Garland was playing at. He was an All-NBA level guard. Add another All-NBA level big. I mean, Mobley has still performed like an all-star. He's still been huge on defense, like especially the 3-2 zone with Mobley at the top. And that's another thing I want to get into, because in game 3, in the second quarter, the Cavs went to a 3-2 zone with Mobley at the top, and it completely stifled the Pacers offense. Like Pacers scored like 2 points over the next 3 or 4 minutes and just looked completely helpless. Game 4, they come in ready to attack that 3-2 zone. I don't remember when the Cavs went to it. It might have been the end of the first quarter. They started going like high ball screen right on Mobley to just like force the other wing to step over, and they just picked it apart. I don't even think the Cavs stuck with the zone very long. But beautiful game planning by Rick Carlisle. Beautiful execution by the Pacers, just having 5 great decision makers on the court at all times. And then you pair that with the absolute heater where they're just gunning long threes and making every single one of them. Yeah, you're going to end up leading by 41 points at halftime. That's going to happen. So, yeah, I don't know. I think looking back, it's an absolute tragedy that the Cavs lost game 2.
Yeah.
Like, how much differently would we be talking right now if it was 2-2? You just don't blow that lead in historically bad fashion.
If you don't blow that lead in historically bad fashion, I still probably say Cavs in 6, because then you're going back home for game 5. You give Garland, who I thought, just going back really quickly, like looking at some of the like film, I thought he did a all right job out of pick and roll, specifically like getting to the floater or getting to the rim and just dishing it out. But to your point, it does still look like awkward, or like to the extent where he just is visibly uncomfortable still, putting a ton of pressure on his sprained toe. But then, like I say, just give him more time to kind of get reacclimated. And it got to a point where in the second half, where, okay, he started to like out of thin air, just get into some sort of a groove offensively. So, okay, cool. Yeah. Garland's starting to get back into some semblance of a rhythm. Donovan Mitchell's been an all NBA guard still throughout these playoffs and throughout the series, outside of a bad shooting night here at Game 4. Cool, it's 2-2. Let's go back home. And we'll just leave Game 4 behind us. Let's go back home 2-2. Whereas now you're down 3-1, and Dan Gilbert's putting out, believe when tweets down 3-1.
To your point on Garland, I do think he's looked pretty good, just like turning the corner when he's got that advantage.
Yes.
But like he seems really uncomfortable navigating tight spaces.
Yeah.
Especially when the Pacers go to like an aggressive coverage, it feels very rushed. There were a few times where they'd come with a hedge or a trap, and he'd get off the ball instantly instead of like
He had a
his
really
thing is
bad
keeping-
turnover like that.
Yeah. And his thing is keeping the dribble alive and kind of navigating that, Nash dribbles and things like that. And he's just been very sped up. And some of that is Indiana's pressure. Again, going back to that, the full court pressure, speeding everything up. But yeah, I just think, the two big takeaways for me after game 4 and just the series as a whole are, you already hit one nail on the head. It was the Cavs aren't frauds or regular season team because of this. They're clearly battered. They're clearly just not themselves. And my second takeaway is that the Pacers are way better than all of you expected. Even I had them ranked as my 5th contender, and they've even outperformed my expectations in this series. Like, the gear they've hit defensively is insane. And with everything they're already capable of doing on offense, it's insane to see how good this team is. Like, they're a legit title contender at this point, and that's where the discussion should be. The discussion shouldn't be the Cavs won 64 games and they suck now. It should be, ever since the Pacers started the season, I don't even remember what they start, 4-10 or 4-12, and you were like walking back your regular or preseason take of like the Pacers were 3rd or 4th best team in the West or whatever you had them as, or in the East. You had them as, and you were like, man, I might have just missed the mark on that. You get a healthy Halliburton sometime in December, January. And since that point, every indicator suggests that they have been, at worst, like the 5th best team in the league. They've gone like 46-13 in the new year.
They're a 60-win team, basically.
Yeah, they've played like a 60-win team. Yeah, and I think they've got the 4th best defense since the All-Star break. So, like, they're on some crazy stuff, dude. This team is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
And they're also ridiculously deep. They go like 11-12 into the rotation. So when your 7 or 8 man rotation is worn out, it's like, all right, let's get 5 minutes of Ben Shepherd. Let's get 6 minutes of Jarris Walker. So by the time we're in that final 8-game stretch, our starters are acting like they just got off vacation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, the Pacers, like, a beautifully coached team too. We need to give credit to that. Rick Carlisle is awesome, man.
I think two further points. I think Carlisle got a lot of crap for like the end of the Dallas run for him, and got a lot of flack for the fact that he, can't develop or whatever, and yada yada, or this, that, and the third. I think he's come in, and him and Kevin Pritchard, they've built this team beautifully over the past few years. And he's one of the better game-to-game adjustment coaches in the entire league. It's not even a debate.
And just like offensive strategy, because I remember one of my big takeaways during the initial start of the Halliburton era was the offense was kind of built around Buddy Hield. So for them to do a midseason trade of Buddy Hield and then not skip a beat on offense is just insane. It's insane to me.
Yeah, and like out of the remaining coaches, he would have to be like top 2 in terms of game-to-game adjustments, I think, left.
Who else would be in your, like, Joe Mazzulla?
Mazzulla's an elite game-to-game adjustment coach. That'd be really fun. Like, healthy Pacers, healthy. By the way, stop
Mark
downing the Pacers. Dagnall's a really good game-to-game adjustment coach. I think Steve Kerr's a good one.
Steve Kerr is, and people will never want to admit it, but Steve Kerr's elite.
Like, Steve Kerr, I can understand rotation gripes with Steve Kerr. That's everybody's calling card. But, like, schematics and getting just adjustment stuff, Steve Kerr's the man. And then the second one is, and it kind of led to what I was talking about, like Boston, Indiana, potentially. Just stop doubting Indiana. Like, if they pulled off a Boston upset at this point, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And even if you go back to like last year, like they were without Halliburton, and it was like an incredibly competitive series, especially once the series flipped back to Indiana. And now they've just hit another gear defensively this season, and they have a healthy Tyrese Halliburton this time around. Boston doesn't look as strong as they were then either. So who knows? Boston maybe can flip the gear too. So just stop downing Indiana and do not have the wrong takeaways with the Cavs.
Yeah, I feel weird because I feel like I was so high in Indiana, but then I feel like I doubted them heading into this series. But also, I'm like, so when I got the Lakers and Wolves one wrong, I was very loud and like, I got this wrong. Here's what I got wrong. But when I look at Pacers Cavs, I really think like I don't need to walk it back as much just because like we didn't get the full strength matchup. I
Yeah.
wasn't underrated. I wasn't operating under the assumption that Darius Garland would miss the first two games, then come back looking like a shell. Mobley would miss a game. Hunter would miss a game. Like I feel like everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon of like you're wrong. You were wrong about my team, and it's like in some cases that is definitely the case. But I feel like you and I both we viewed this as a very heavily favored Cavs series, and maybe we did underrate the Pacers just by giving the Cavs such an advantage. And maybe the healthy Pacers could have won the series. I'm not saying they couldn't have. But it's a lot different, in my opinion, where it's like we were operating under the assumption that Garland missed those two games because they were against Miami because they were like being overly cautious.
Yeah. And not because he couldn't walk or put pressure on it.
See, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I kind of want to just land on credit to the Pacers because they've come in, they've executed damn near to perfection, and they look like a title contender right now. The other series we're going to talk about today is Nuggets Thunder. This series has probably been, in my opinion, the best of the second round, like pretty easily actually. In terms of game two was a complete blowout, but outside of that, it's been just masterful chess match between both teams, and then coming down to like the final seconds every time. And I just want to ask you, like, where's your head at in terms of what the talking points about this series should be 2-2 headed back to OKC?
Well, the talking point should not be about rankings. We kind of had the discussion beforehand. The talking point, okay, the foul baiting stuff is annoying as hell in general. Ref talk is annoying as hell. I think I said it was after game two because I remember saying that you're losing by $1 billion. Why are we like complaining about referees? It was after game two. I remember now. And just in general, the players have been super physical as a whole. And also like dog, we're mad at certain players for foul baiting when other players do it and we applaud it, or we're happy because they're our favorite players. So like, just get over ourselves. I think we have to like kind of switch our playoff talking points now as a national media, if you will, because I think a lot of times in years past, and maybe this is the Brons, the KDs, the Stephs, the Hardens to a certain extent, like kind of the Kawhi, healthy Kawhi, like kind of spoiling us a little bit, like young Luka even, like kind of spoiling us. But like now it's more so like it feels more like the chess match matters more, and it's not more so like who has the best player now.
Yeah.
Where like a years past, again, going back to like that era, like mid 2010s to early 2020s, it was okay, cool. This team has Steph, or this team has KD, this team has Bron or healthy goal, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like this team has the automatic guaranteed advantage, and maybe this series isn't the best example of that because it's Jokic and Shea, the two MVP frontrunners. But this series is a good example of the fact that both players, relative to our expectations of them at this point and what we've been accustomed to, have had really, really, really awful playoff series. And Shea, the standards arguably maybe set a little like obnoxiously high. Like it's ridiculous, but he's had a bad playoff run to the obnoxiously high standard that gets set on people that hates on the Thunder for no reason. And they've had bad series, like output wise. Like Jokic's true shooting over the last 3 games has been ridiculous. It's 39% true shooting. Am I tripping?
Over the last 3 games, it's 43.2.
43.2 true shooting percentage. The 3-ball for Shea has completely abandoned him over this series. And they've both seen some of the most aggressive defensive coverages I think we've seen in a long time. So shout out to Mark Daniel, shout out to David Adelman and his staff. Whether it's the kind of box and one style defense that we've seen Shea kind of have to navigate, or just the fact that we are guarding Jokic with all 5 players every single time down the floor. And it's both led to some reduced offensive outputs. And that's why you've had to rely on your Aaron Gordon to hit was his game winner game 1? I'm not tripping, am I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It
he has
was.
the game winner in game 1, and then he has the 3 that sends it to overtime, and they eventually win into game 3. Or the Russell Westbrook performances in this series, the Jamal Murray performances in this series. Or that's why you need your Caruso, Casey Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins massive game 4 bench performances. It's just puts a bigger index, in my opinion, on your role players and your depth mattering, and then also your ability to make game-to-game adjustments. And I think we can kind of take the conversation from there, and you're already doing a video on this series. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I actually I was about to go there, but I like what you said about the game-to-game adjustments, because even just in-game adjustments, like one of my big takeaways watching the third quarter of game 4 was I tweeted, I think I've seen enough of Lou Dort tonight, because
Yeah.
his offensive decision-making was just abhorrent. His offensive decision-making was so bad, and they were leaving him open, and he shot 2 of 10 from 3 in just 3 quarters. And the thing is, you want him on the court because of his on-ball defense, but if you're going to play like this 5-man, almost zone type of defense, and Jokic is going to screen Dort off the ball anyways, what is the value of keeping him on the court over one of those other guys who's going to be an offensive threat? So Dort didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter. And then you get Caruso showing up offensively, you get Wiggins showing up offensively, and that ultimately swung the game. So I love the adjustment of not leaning into Dort in the fourth quarter of game 4. And I'd even say, like, maybe curveball game 5. I don't expect them to do it because it's been their starting 5 for how long. I wouldn't start Dort in game 5. Like, I'd rather have Kaysen. Oh, I didn't even mention Kaysen. Kaysen was huge in the fourth quarter as well. I'd rather have Kaysen or Wiggins in that starting lineup just because they're a little bit more of an offensive threat and just smarter decision makers overall. Even though Dort is still a very valuable player, don't get me wrong. I just think in this series specifically, with the way the Nuggets are defending Shea and the way they're boxing up the middle of the floor, you need those guys that can just produce more offensively and be a little bit more reliable as decision makers. Pivoting back to the other side, though, OKC's here's where I want to start the conversation. The ultimate question mark when it comes to, okay, we're about to face the Nuggets in a series, is what are we going to give up? It's like we're going to pick some poison. Is it going to be we're going to make Jokic beat us as a scorer? Is it we're going to make Jokic dime everyone up and just double him every time and let shooters shoot? Are we going to make him make jumper? Like, it's like you're giving something up. Even Minnesota had their moments where they struggled to stop something. Like, he has the dominant post-scoring game in game 5. He has like a big shooting game somewhere in there. I'm pretty sure he had some success running around off-ball screens and getting like some mid-range stuff. OKC is the only defense I've ever seen, and maybe could ever in NBA history execute this. They've effectively, over these last 3 games, taken everything away from Jokic. He's a non-threat as a screen and roll guy. He's a non-threat in the post. He's a non-threat as a pick and pop guy. He's a non-threat running around off-ball screens. He's a non-threat as a point guard. The Nuggets have tried so many different adjustments just to get Jokic going as a scorer or a playmaker, and OKC's defense has literally been perfect. I want to throw some numbers at you real quick, just in terms of Jokic's individual like shot profile. So in the regular season, Jokic attempted 6 shots at the rim per game. Over these last 3 games, 3 shots at the rim per game. So his rim attempts have been cut in half. Over the regular season, he attempted 1.2 long mid-range shots per game, which is a 2-point shot outside of 14 feet. In this series, last 3 games, 4 of those attempts per game, so more than tripled. He's more than tripled his volume from long 2. He attempted 4.7 threes per game in the regular season. Now he's attempted 7.3 over the last 3 games. And just to throw the percentages at you, in the regular season, 72% at the rim, 54% on long 2s, 42% from 3. Over these last 3 games, 56% at the rim, so 16% worse, 33% on long 2s, 21% worse, and 18% from 3, about 24% worse. And during those minutes, the Nuggets in the regular season had a 127.5 offensive rating with Jokic on the court. In these last 3 games, 95.9. So we're talking about Jokic completely cratering as a scorer, the Nuggets completely cratering as an offense. Oh, and I should also mention 5 assists per game to 5.3 turnovers.
Yep.
So a negative assist to turnover ratio. It's like I've never seen a defense execute like this against an offensive talent of this caliber. Like, we've seen the poor LeBron series, we've seen the poor Steph series, but I feel like usually those are like a good game and a bad game, a good game and a bad game, or they are like, I just went cold. This is a complete 3-game stretch of one of the greatest offensive players ever looking helpless against this defense. We're switching whoever onto him, and we are aggressively fronting everything. We're not letting him catch the ball anywhere near the basket, and we're going to make him pick up offensive fouls to get low post touches. He had 4 offensive fouls in game 2. We're going to drop, or we're going to just not even leave him in the pick and roll, because we're going to send the low man over every single time, and we are going to tell Russ and Christian Brown, take that 3. Russ and Christian Brown are combined, I think, 11 of 45 from 3 in the series, like 25%. So, yeah, go ahead, take those 3s every time. That's what they want the Nuggets doing. We're going to make Jokic play. If he wants to isolate, we're going to make him play from 20 feet out. And we're only going to give him mid-range shots. It's insane. It's insane. And, like, Jokic has the shot-making ability to see that coverage and produce. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into game 5 and he finds the 3-point shot, he finds the mid-range shot, and has a big scoring game. But it's a lot different than the touch shots, the layups, the offensive rebounding. It's been insane to see. It's been insane to see them do this to an all-time great.
So what's your adjustment if you're Denver entering game 5? If we're simply focusing on the idea of, okay, God, we got to get Jokic some easy touches, do you have an adjustment if you're Denver?
I don't. And that's kind of what scares me, because I think they've already kind of tried everything. I guess, like, so they started out trying to feed him in the post. But like I said, the aggressive fronting, the low man coming over every time he touches the ball. They're basically just forcing non-shooters to hit 3s. And they're not. Then they tried pivoting to, okay, maybe let's do inverted pick and roll. Let's get Jokic going off inverted pick and roll. They're just going to switch everything. And they're just going to have the low man still come over, so you're not really worried about Jokic versus Caruso or Dort, because not only can they hold their ground and kind of push him out, make him play physical, Chet's going to be stepping over anyways, so it's a mid-range shot. They've tried running him off of off-ball screens, but he's shooting 6 of 28 from 3 in this series. So if the 3-point shot is ice cold, you lose. You can just continue switching. They're just going to keep switching. Make him make a jumper over the top of us, and he's not. They've tried pick and pop. Again, the 3-point shot's cold. They've tried pick and roll a lot, but again, the low man's coming over all the way early to not let him get a floater. He's not getting any floaters, so the only shot available out of the pick and roll for him is a mid-range jumper. So they've just abandoned the 2-man game, because the only advantage they're getting out of the 2-man game is Jamal Murray pull-up jumper, which is very much up and down. They've tried turning Jokic into a full-time point guard. Can't get anything out of that. I don't know. I really don't know. Like, that's what scares me if I'm Denver. I don't know what you do to get Jokic going. OKC is just such an elite defense.
So really quickly, I haven't like looked at, individually, like the way OKC's helping out of the post, and see if there's something like schematic that Denver could like to neutralize that extra low man help. And I'll see if there is any later on. But throughout since game 2 game 2, game 3, game 4, over these last 3 games, Jokic has had 17 post-up scoring possessions since game 2. Do you want to guess what his points per possession is for the last 3 games?
I don't. It's got to be like 0.5 or 0.6.
That's like freakishly close. 0.47 points per possession on post-up opportunities since game 2.
What's the turnover percentage? It's got to be really high.
I don't know. In general on the playoffs, though, this is not necessarily the last 3. His turnover percentage on post-ups is 23.5%.
And I would say it's been amped up during these last 3 games, so it's probably like 30.
Yeah, can I like filter this out on Synergy?
That's insane, dude. That's insane, because Jokic, we've always talked about like a Jokic post-up being maybe the most unguardable half-court action. And the Thunder have just made it a non-factor.
Right. And by the way, I try to get people try to gaslight me for saying that this was an elite defense all year, or one of the greatest defenses ever.
It is.
It is. Like we can stop having that conversation now.
I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. So I guess I'll just kind of paint a picture for you since you said you haven't gone back and watched all the possessions. Basically, they're forcing Jokic to catch the ball like 16 feet out, whether it's close to the corner or maybe like on the elbow, like pinch area. And then they're just having the low man draw, and it's usually Chet, and they'll pre-switch Chet to keep him on the baseline. They'll have the low man kind of just not come over early, but sit on the strong side block, like on his own block. And then once something happens, if it's a cut, if it's a spin move, whatever it is, then Chet's coming in with late help to just wall off the paint.
And Chet's like weak side still?
He's weak side. And so what happens is you can't cut because he's tagging every cutter. And then the Thunder, what they do is they don't sit in the gaps. They just shift everyone until they get the guy they want left open. So like if they put Russ up top, they're just going to not have anyone guarding the top of the key, and they're just going to shift everyone to a shooter. And it's like the only player Jokic can pass to is the guy that they want catching the ball. Like there was one play specifically where they put Gordon in the dunker, Russ in the weak side corner, and Shea's the low man off of Gordon. Shea comes over to the strong side. Wiggins slides down from Russ to take Gordon. And then there's like, it's like parting the seas where Jokic turns and they're handing the skip pass to Russ on a silver platter. Like it is the easiest pass ever to make. And then when Russ catches the ball, nobody closes out. And then they're just like, yeah, Russ, take that three. And he's shooting 5 of 22 in the series.
Okay, so it's funny.
I don't even know what you do. I don't know what you do.
Okay.
Because Russ is going to take that open three. Like, I don't know. Maybe you try and do some handoff to MPJ. But then MPJ is also cold from three. So it's like...
Yeah, MPJ just like pretty clearly had an outlier great shooting night in game 3.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough because...
OKC's defense is crazy, dude.
Like, my first thought was kind of like, do you like try... Now, again, this could just leverage immediately into what OKC wants you to do anyway. Do you like try like a backside pit-in flare? But that, like, again, if we're leaving open Russ, and Russ is the guy where Russ would be the screener. So I don't know. That's like the first initial thought.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
But yeah, like to your point about the cutters, like the first 2 possessions, that's all I see. It's just Chet camped on the baseline.
Yeah.
Payne Watson, Christian Brown cut is okay.
And also, the Nuggets usually like to counter like leaving Russ open by having Russ initiate the play. And then he's going to make the entry pass and then cut immediately off of the entry.
Okay.
And, right, so there were like 3 possessions I counted where that happened, and this was the situation. The first one, Russ cuts, Jokic hits him on the cut, and Russ has like this super tough finish over Chet. Second time they do it, Russ cuts, the defense is ready for the pass, and then Jay Will, who's on Jokic, deflects the pass, and they force the turnover. Third situation, Russ cuts, Chet tags. They don't even end up passing it to Russ. Then Russ clears out, then Gordon cuts, then Chet blocks Gordon at the rim on a cut. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I really don't.
Okay, so I got a good visual now. And by the way, like this is how much they like don't care about some of these guys. It's a 2-point game in the 4th quarter, and Alex Caruso is guarding 1 pass away, and he's digging in on Jokic, guarding Jamal Murray. It's a baseline cut. I think that's Aaron Gordon. Aaron Wiggins tags a cut, make sure we're good. Shea's on the strong side block, like you were already talking about, all the way loaded over. And okay, so this is like a spacing thing then, because if I'm OKC and the opposite wing and the opposite corner guy is Christian Brown and Russell Westbrook, I could care less about both of them if I'm OKC. Right. So that's where I say, okay, cool. If we're going to have a baseline cut anyway, or like basically have 3 players on that far side and send a cutter, and then we'll have the corner spot occupied and the wing spot occupied, let the cutter at this point, if we're just going to like use those 3 players, let the cutter be Russ, and then let Christian Brown be the screener for Aaron Gordon on a pin-in flare. Aaron Gordon has been like, I'm at least seeing if Aaron Gordon can be an off-screen threat for me. Yeah. And like, let's see if Jokic can try to pick them apart in that regard. Because, literally on this possession, it's a 9-0 Thunder run. They leave open Russell Westbrook in the corner. Rush just bricks the 3. And the Thunder, I think, have done a noticeably better job at rebounding, especially in Game 4.
Yeah. So I think maybe you probably have to play Russ from the dunker more if that's the situation.
Yeah.
I do wonder. I don't think Russ and Brown can play together. I don't think you can have
I
both
don't
on the
think
floor.
so.
There was a lineup in Game 4 where they had. I'm pretty sure they had Russ, Brown, and Watson. And those are the three guys that the Thunder are not going to guard.
Ever.
Like, they tried to get Julian Strawther some minutes in Game 4. Do you think maybe that's a direction you lean into? Like, because your defense is kind of fine. Like, Denver's defense has been really good in this series. So maybe you just go for some more offense and just try and get a shooter on the court.
And, like, in a situation where, again, we're using Russ as, like, in the dunker spot as a cutter, again, I really just think it's a spacing thing. Because if you go, like, Game 3 and, like, 4:26 left, Russ used as a cutter, and you have Russ cutting baseline, MPJ opposite wing, Jamal like in at the top or maybe more so slot, and then Eric Gordon's the entry passer. The floor spacing is fine, and if it's opposite MPJ, okay, it's not. At least you're going to cause a reaction. If MPJ just misses, he just misses. But he's not Russ or Christian Brown, who we were like, okay, fine, hit. You know what I'm saying? So I think I like the idea of like, we're going to make Russ a little bit more of a cutter or just a dunker spot player in general on Jokic post-ups. And then see if we can get some, like, off-ball action for, like, one of your other three starters in Jamal, MPJ. And I'm personally trying Aaron Gordon at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. I also
Aaron
think,
Gordon,
like,
the off-screen threat. Who would have thought?
And he's delivered. He's been a phenomenal shooter all season. I think the last, like, major point I want to hit on, like, in terms of there's no adjustment for this. It's just Jokic just flat out has to be better. Like, if we put him in offensive GOAT talks, if you see this type of coverage and you're forced to score over the top, that's what you're supposed to be able to do. Like, you are an all-time great shot maker.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't been there in this series. So I think that's the main thing. Like, adjustments aside, you held the Thunder to 88 points.
You're supposed to
win that game. You're supposed to win that game. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to land on. Is there anything you wanted to talk about with the other side of things, like OKC's offense, Denver's defense? Because I personally have not done a deep dive into that side of things since Game 1. So I'm not as well versed on all of the like schematic things there. Just outside of the fact that they're playing this kind of like box and 1-3-1 hybrid where they're just gonna wall off Shea.
Yeah, I think a lot of my takes on the Thunder offense in general, I think the Thunder just haven't done a great job at consistently attacking it or consistently generating like great shots. And again, it kind of just comes back to one of their bigger weaknesses as a team, outside of the fact that, like, look, you need your secondary creators to be, really good secondary options for you, and you got that from J-Dub in Game 3. But I think a part of that is, like, they don't have this advanced playmaker on the team.
Right.
And I think in a series like this against Denver, who's playing this, this creative hybrid defense that's really, mixing up coverages and mixing up different looks for Shea and being ultra aggressive with Shea, like, not having that advanced playmakers just made things really, really tough for their offense. It made things tough for Shea.
I want to say, I think it's one of two things. I think it could either be an advanced playmaker or just someone who's going to consistently get both feet in the paint after they touch the ball. Like, I think of last year, Luka had Kyrie, and Kyrie's not this, like, OD slashing threat at this point in his career, but if you zone up Luka in that type of way, he's going to move the ball wing to wing, and Kyrie's going to attack like a side closeout. Yeah. And J-Dub's done a pretty good job, but it's different than being this elite. Like, even just Jaylen Brown, and this is, like, where I always go with the J-Dub, because a lot of people force that, like, J-Dub versus Jaylen Brown debate, and my big thing is always, like, if Jason Tatum saw these coverages, Jaylen Brown is just this ultimate slashing threat. You cannot stop him from getting to the rim over and over again and just breaking down the defense. And I think that's kind of what the separator is. But then to your point, if it was like a super advanced patch like Halliburton, it's just an immediate skip. As soon as the defense starts to shift towards him, like, you're finding some kind of weak spot in the defense. So, yeah, I think it's one of two things. Like, J-Dub's been really good, but he's not either an elite playmaker or an elite slasher. And I think it's got to be one of the two.
Yeah, there's That's the biggest thing with the Thunder offense. I think it's just they're lacking that, and then that's honestly has been like the root of their offensive problems. I think.
Well, also, just bad shooting luck. They're just missing a lot of
Yeah.
open threes too. Like Lou Dort, like I said, 2 for 10. Like he's not a 20% shooter.
I think Shea's like late game shot selection can be better too.
I
Like,
agree. Well,
he
especially
kinda
game
jacked
3 when
up-
he kind of like
Yes.
he kind of iced out J-Dub and was just kind of chucking.
Yeah.
And J-Dub was the high hand. He had 32 in that game.
And then even like the last few shots of game 4, it's like, okay, like why are we just spamming the step back 3 button? It's kind of like it's kind of like Tatum from game 1 of that Knicks series where we're just spamming step back 3 when we're like 2, or Tatum in that game might have been 2 for 10 or whatever from 3. Oh, by the way, I completely forgot this when we were talking about the Cavs Pacers series. Also, Donovan Mitchell is also dealing with an injury. He's re-aggravated his ankle injury. So, like, again, please.
I thought where you were about to go with that was the draft lottery happened. But I think it's happening right now.
I do have it pulled up. But we have one more topic, and then hopefully by then we'll be able to react to the draft lottery. Please, really quickly, and we'll be able to go back to this live. Please do not send Cooper Flag to the Utah Jazz. Please, Cooper Flag, go somewhere east. Go to Washington. Go to Brooklyn even. I don't care. Brooklyn will be interesting because then, like, do they, like, trade the first pick to go get Giannis or something? I don't know. Send him east.
I want Cooper Flag in Chicago. That would be my one. But I don't think Chicago has very good odds. So it's like a shot in the dark. But I want Cooper Flag in Chicago. That'd be my one. But yeah, so we're recording this clearly at the time of the draft lottery is about to happen. And depending on how fast we get through this next topic, it's either going to happen live or we're going to hop right off of this and react to it. So if you're like kind of tweaking right now because we're talking about the draft lottery and you're listening to this a day after it happened, that is the situation we're in. Anything else on Nuggets Thunder or Cavs Pacers before we move on?
No. Again, like you said, Thunder Nuggets has been an amazing series. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I think the winner of that series wins the title. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the winner of Thunder Nuggets wins the title this year.
So you're saying if Denver gets out of this series, you think they beat Minnesota this time around?
I think they win the title.
Dude, Denver Minnesota rematch would be insane.
This Denver team has just a different gear than last year's team had defensively.
It does.
And yeah, I think this is just a better Denver team, and I don't think we're gonna get a Jokic series this bad against anybody else, honestly.
Interesting. I want to say I kind of hope we get it, but I also kind of want to keep I like the Thunder all-time great thing. So I'm 50-50. I don't really have a stake in what I want to see. I just want to see good basketball, and we've seen amazing basketball throughout this entire playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, last topic. This is a complete pivot from what we've been talking about the last few weeks. We just kind of wanted to throw this in there because it's kind of a hot topic right now on social media. The Giannis situation. Shams comes out with a report where he basically says Giannis, for the first time ever, is open to exploring what else is out there outside of Milwaukee. And yeah, Sean, where do you want to take the conversation?
I saw a tweet that's kind of funny. It's like, well, if this is the first time, then why have we heard about this every other year? And
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's pretty funny. The Giannis thing is kind of interesting because he's still only 30, I think. He just turned 30. So the Giannis thing gets interesting because if you're the Nets was the team I kind of threw out there in a hypothetical where they land the number 1 pick or something, because you could almost talk yourself into doing that because he's only 30 and the idea is look, we have, let's just call it 5 more prime years of Giannis, and then assuming that he ages well, we'll be fine. We could really gun for a title. I think that's the within this 5-year window, we'll just call it. I think that's the most interesting part about the Giannis situation is if a team does get number 1, then it kind of makes sense. How bloodthirsty to go after a ring right now could a team potentially be, if that makes sense?
Let me ask you this. I think this is the most interesting. It kind of builds off of what you just said. If the Spurs get number 1, do you draft Cooper Flag next to Wemby, or do you make the splash for Giannis next to Wemby?
I low-key go get Giannis.
You think so?
I go get Giannis.
I don't know, dude. Cooper Flag and Wemby, that's your duo. That's your duo for the next 15 years.
That's the argument. Where the argument for me is like if I go get Giannis to pair like Fox and Wemby.
Well, and to your point, there's no guarantee that Cooper Flag pans out. Like we all think he will. We all expect him to. But like imagine looking back 10 years from now, and it's Giannis gets traded, or they don't make the trade for Giannis, and then Cooper Flag doesn't pan out to be like a superstar, and then it's like we could have had Giannis. What could have been like Giannis and Wemby?
There's a high probability that you don't look good in that scenario, regardless. Because then it's just the flip side. Like if you trade for Giannis, you don't win a title, and then Cooper Flag becomes this 15-year All-NBA guy somewhere else or in Milwaukee. Now it's like, oh man, like look at what could have been, honestly. So I guess in a situation like the Spurs, it's I guess more so just like are we prioritizing kind of like development still with Mitch who just got the job, and okay, then in that case it's just go get Cooper Flag and we'll build this thing the right way. And not say like the Giannis, trade is unethical or not the right way, but we're gonna build it through like organically, yeah. Or vice versa. I don't know. That's tough because then like what's the package? It's like
it would
Devin
probably
Vassell.
be Sohan, Vassell, and the number 1 pick, and then like some other picks, like later picks.
Yeah.
It would have to be like in that scenario, you probably are able to keep Stephon Castle as well
because you have the number 1 pick. Like you don't have to trade one,
and you're bailing the Bucks out. People need to keep in mind like that might not be a fair package for Giannis, but the Bucks need a bailout.
Yeah,
like they have to get bailed out of Giannis. They're in like unless Giannis stays, then you're not getting bailed. But like if they're gonna get rid of Giannis, it has to be a bailout because they're just on a train that's just going down and down and down, and it's about to crash.
You mean like something positive to
look
forward to? Yeah, which would be the number 1 pick, which would be number 1 pick,
like that resets your franchise, and then you can get off Dame. You do all this other stuff, and just reset. That would be the bailout. Okay, so let's ignore what's going to happen in the lottery and all that stuff because it's just a little bit weird how it hasn't happened yet, but it has happened. Let's just talk like what would be your top 3 destinations for Giannis to compete for a championship right now?
To compete for a title?
Ignoring packages, like ignoring like what's realistic, like just in terms of basketball fit.
I think San Antonio would have to be in there because just the idea of pairing him next to Wemby. Now, what that does for Wemby as far as his development, dang, I kind of talked myself out of doing it because I could unfortunately see Wemby being relegated to screen and roll big or spot up big, or screen and roll big / spot up big in San Antonio if they did the Giannis trade.
That's the side of things that people don't really address with Giannis is that he is a very like rigid play style type of player. Like when you have him on your team, you're going to play a very specific brand of basketball.
Yeah,
and that it's not as easy. Like one thing I keep hearing is like, oh, Giannis and Luka would just be unstoppable. Like that'd be the future of LA. But that basketball fit is horrid. That basketball fit is atrocious in my opinion. Like, how do you feel about the Giannis and Luka fit potentially?
No.
It'd be bad hoops. Like I understand. We got to stop doing this thing where it's two superstars are gonna figure it out. If 2 players don't fit, I don't care how good they are. They're not gonna fit. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, you have like. I mean, the biggest positive difference between him and Dame is that he's just a better playmaker than Dame.
Yeah.
But like, okay, we're getting even more isocentric with Luka. We're getting even more screen and heavy centric with Luka. With less, we're also significantly decreasing the level of like off ball versatility compared to Dame. And then also you're plucking in Giannis to that same situation.
Yeah.
Outside, like, what are the other like glaring fit concerns for you?
Well, it's mostly the fact that Giannis has never committed to being a full-time screener.
Yeah.
And even if he does, he's always going for like the little like hip tag and roll. And he doesn't really operate in the short roll. Like, I always thought that was one weird thing about like what made it clunky with Dame was when you have a big like Nurkic, for example, that Dame played so many years with, it's always going to be a really hard screen. And then he's going to like float in the short roll area for the pocket pass because Dame is looking to make the pocket pass. That's the pass he wants to make. Whereas Giannis is like this screener where he's going to tag the point of attack defender and then just downhill, just roll downhill. And it forces I guess that would be a little bit of a better fit with Luka than with Dame because that's where you get like that low tag and then the skip pass, and that's like what would be open for. But in terms of just like Luka making that pocket pass, like Giannis isn't the type of guy that's gonna hang around in the short roll for Luka to. And also just like Giannis's timing as a roller, it just clearly isn't where he's at his best. It's not that he's a bad screen and roll big, but it's like how much more offensive value are you getting from a Giannis screen and roll than you would get from like a Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively screen and roll with Luka?
Hey,
It's
shout out Gafford,
not
future
that,
Laker.
yeah, it's not that much of an extreme difference. And then there's so many more possessions that you have to put in Giannis's hands where Luka's just standing around like as a spot up guy.
Yeah.
And there's no like movement. You can't unlock any off ball stuff there. I just think there's no synergy. It's just too like they'd be a really good team just because it's two megas talents, but there's no synergistic effect, which I think you need to win a championship.
Yeah, so I don't know. Okay, if we're talking solely from Giannis' standpoint, I still think San Antonio would be one of them. Although, again, I kind of talk myself out of it if we're just simply because of the fact that I value Wemby so much. And this shouldn't be a hot take. I think Wemby is just a more valuable asset currently than Giannis still.
Easily.
So San Antonio will be in there. I don't know what this team's gonna do, especially with that article coming out about how they just still, love themselves some Jalen Green. But Houston could build something somewhat intriguing around Giannis. And like you're further like drowning yourself in the no shooting thing, but like I low key like think this would just be souped up version of last year's Rockets team or this year's Rockets team.
Yeah.
But just with a reliable half court player, which this year's team didn't have. And then like a third team, I'm trying to think somewhere east. Like
I
don't
think
know.
I have a couple
Somebody?
teams.
All right.
I have a couple teams. So I'm kind of like making a little impromptu list of teams that I think would make sense for Giannis fit wise and would take them to like that next level. I think some of the obvious ones are like Thunder. I mean, OKC can.
I did not acknowledge OKC because please no.
Like they can if they really want to. Like if OKC loses this series against Denver, like they might pivot and be like, let's go get Giannis.
I'm in a Twitter group chat. They're like, all right, can the Thunder please win this series so they don't turn around and say, all right, let's go get Giannis.
Yeah, another team, obvious one that's been floated around in these talks for how long is the Warriors. I think
that's dead now, though. I would imagine
it's gotta be. It's got to be dead, but just in terms of like, they're always going to be in that discussion just because of how much the fit makes sense. Like
Yeah.
him as a rim runner in the motion offense is just, and with Steph off ball, just broken. You can do so much. I think another one that kind of is slept on is I'm ignoring like a realistic trade package, but what if you took this exact current Minnesota team and just replaced Randall with Giannis? That's a pretty freaking good team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a pathway. There's obviously no pathway to that.
No.
But like that would be a good basketball fit, I think. I've got four more teams. I've got 3 East teams and 1 West team. So I'll finish off the West team. If Memphis decides to move off of either Ja or Jaren, I think Giannis would be a decent fit there.
Okay, so let's say they move off Jaren.
I think you can easily center a trade package around Jaren probably.
Yeah, it would just be like Jaren, like, I don't know.
Well, it'd be a haul. It'd still be a haul because Jaren isn't that young at this point. How old is he? Like 25, 26?
27 maybe even?
Yeah, so it would have to still be a haul. But yeah, then you come back into next year with Ja, Bane, Jalen Wells, Giannis.
Giannis. Yeah.
Or you probably have to trade Wells too. Probably have to trade Wells. So maybe Aldama, you go to the oversized lineup. I don't know. Kennard, maybe get that extra shooter next to Giannis.
Dang, yeah. Oh, Twin Towers with Edie and Giannis.
And then you also have like they love to play in transition. Plug Giannis right in.
Yeah.
You like to play in transition too. Okay, I've got 3 East teams.
3 East teams.
Detroit's a quick one. I think I could see him and Cade would probably have to figure out some synergy. It'd be a little bit weird because Cade's kind of like Diet Luka in a lot of ways with the way he likes to operate.
Yeah.
But in terms of everything else kind of clicking, like Giannis and Duran as an athletic front court and the things they can do defensively, beef stew. I think Giannis would be a decent fit in Detroit. I think, dare I say, some kind of like Garland and Allen package to get Giannis, and you come back with Mitchell, Mobley, and Giannis as your trio.
And Milwaukee walks out still with with an All NBA guard and a big, and still, again, this ignoring package, but like, I don't know. I saw an interesting point that was like, I don't know how much. Again, unless we're talking about number one pick, which it just doesn't matter at that point. But I don't know how much draft capital Milwaukee really wants, or they really just want to like get talent and like kind of move on from there, because they don't own their pick. So there isn't like this major incentive for Milwaukee to tank or be awful. So like that in a hypothetical scenario where like the Cavs get bounced in 5 and Kobe Allman gets pressured to make a decision that I might even necessarily agree with, but to blow the team up, that's a situation for Milwaukee that could kind of make sense. We're building around Garland and Allen for a year and seeing what else we could get. You're going to move off Dame probably next year, so okay. I don't mind that one.
And then the final one that I've been saying for like 2 years now, that would be the ultimate basketball fit and maybe could realistically happen, is Indiana. Giannis in Indiana would be the craziest basketball fit ever. Halliburton and Giannis would play off of each other so perfectly. And then, like, if you just find a way to keep Nembhard and Nesmith.
So we're sending out like Siakam and Turner?
Yeah, I don't know what the package would look like, but I know Pacers have assets and they have a lot of draft picks. And then maybe you could even get a third team involved. Like, what if you can get OKC? So let's say Milwaukee goes in the direction. Oh, something just happened with the lottery, I think. Let's say OKC goes in the direction of stacking, or Milwaukee goes in the direction of stacking draft capital. Maybe you can get OKC involved and send them one of your like role players. Like you send them Mathurin or Siakam, or Siakam's not a role player, or Miles Turner or someone, and then OKC stacks the draft capital for you to get Giannis. I don't know how that would work, but let's move on to whatever just happened. What's going on?
So Dallas is guaranteed to have a top 4 pick.
Collusion.
I swear if Dallas gets Cooper Flag.
Okay, let's get out of here. Let's not react to the draft lottery on the podcast. Let's leave that for the viewer to just... Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Really appreciate you guys listening to episode 45. Next time, we'll time this up so we're talking about Knicks, Celtics, and Warriors, Timberwolves instead of these other two matchups, because we like to keep a healthy mix in here. Make sure to follow Sean on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. Follow him on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. Subscribe to his YouTube channels, the Los Angeles Lakers Network and the Sports Headline Show. Make sure to check out all of my content, Tyler Britton, Hoop Venue, all platforms. We will catch you guys next time for episode number 46.